It is always a good day when you can follow Mr. Lee in a presentation. He is a legendary leader here in Korea, so I'm honored to be here with you and also have the opportunity to share together this platform. The other people in the room I'd like to recognize are several students who came from Batstone University to spend a semester with us in San Francisco. I taught a course that they took, and then they also had internships for a semester. And if you could raise your hand, if you're global immersion students that came, thank you for showing up today. I told them I would take their grade and lower it one if they didn't come. So they willingly and enthusiastically showed up. Okay. I'm not for sale. And so I want to talk about that, my own personal journey, but as it leads to a theory and a practice towards investment and social change. It begins in San Francisco, where I'm a Silicon Valley venture capitalist. I would think about how to take investment capital and top talent and turn it into successful companies. Then one day, I learned that my favorite restaurant in San Francisco is the center of a human trafficking ring that brought over 500 teenagers, 14 to 19 years old, from Bangalore, India area into San Francisco for the purpose of forced labor, modern slavery in my own backyard. Forced to work in restaurants at the beginning, and then they would be taken to work in agricultural fields, fruit and vegetables, into brothels, commercial sex industry, and construction crews. It was such a shock to me that this was happening in my own backyard that I decided that I needed to investigate this. I needed to find out, even though it was not my community, it was not my profession, it was my curiosity and my concern. So I took a leave of absence from my university and I went around the world for 1 year. I left my bank, I left my university, and just took one step. And this is what, if there's nothing else you remember today, it's this one thing. You only need to take one step. Because after you take that one step, the next step will follow. If you don't know what the next 10 steps will be, that's okay. Then you're a human being. But don't be paralyzed by taking just one step. My one step was to investigate, to go and follow the money from San Francisco to Bangalore, from Los Angeles, where I had learned that 110 women from Thailand had been locked in a factory and forced to sew clothes, from Los Angeles to Thailand. From Houston, where I went and investigated young girls who would stand in the wall of a bar, and they have a number, 1, 2, 3, 4. And a man would come to get a drink in the bar. He goes, I want number 5, and I want her for 3 nights. And he'd buy her. I went from Houston to Guatemala and to Peru. So I followed the money for a year. I learned that what happened in my local restaurant was not singular. It was global. 30 million people are living in slavery today. So, one step took me to Thailand and to India. I do want to warn you, when you take one step, you have now moved your body and it may require some change. And when I took that step to Thailand, I met a woman by the name of Kru Nam. She had rescued 30 children out of begging, slavery, and child sex slavery. She had rescued these children, but she had no plan what to do with them later. So when I met her, she had 27 children living in an empty field in northern Thailand. And so here is where the problem is. I thought, how could I not help her? I'll take one more step. So I take a second step. I said, I will build a house for you and your children. And this is the house. for children in northern Thailand, on the border with Myanmar. But after I made my promise, and I was returning to San Francisco to write a book of my year-long journey and use all of the proceeds from my book to build this house, she calls me and says, David, I now have 53 children. I go, okay, 2 homes. I'm finishing the book, and she calls me. I now have 88 children rescued. I'm like, slow down on the rescues already. So I start Not For Sale as an organization, as a NGO, a nonprofit, a charity, to build a village in northern Thailand. And I'm very inspired by this village. It still operates today. We have 150 children living there at any one time. They grow their own food, they go to school, they go to university, and it's a pathway toward the future. I was so inspired, I decided I'd do the same in Romania and built shelters. We have 3 shelters in Romania. And then I was so inspired, I'll do one in Peru, and I'll do one in Vietnam and Uganda, 10 countries. One day I woke up, 5 years after starting these shelters, and I realized 2 things. One is that I was at the end of a river pulling bodies out that were drowning. That's compassion. It's mercy. It's a part of our human makeup, and we should never limit or otherwise criticize compassion and mercy. But it's insufficient. I was helping 150 children in northern Thailand, 100 children in Romania, 120 children in Peru. But there are 30 million people living in slavery today. At some point, you need to lift your head and walk to the top of the river and find out why people are falling into slavery. Why are they being exploited? And how do I come up with a strategy to attack human trafficking and slavery at its roots? That's the first discovery. The second discovery was that when I heard about human trafficking as a venture capitalist, I shut down my brain and opened my heart. Now, it's a very strange phenomenon that when we learn about a social crisis or an environmental crisis, whether it's malaria, HIV/AIDS, extreme poverty, global warming, we begin to think, well, what would be the strategy to end this problem? So what we do typically is that we start organizations that are unsustainable and will never work. So we shut down our brain. As a venture capitalist, I knew how to take money, capital, the top talent, and the best technology to create successful companies. eBays, the Twitters, this is where I live in Silicon Valley. Oh, but human trafficking is not as important as building another version of my iPhone. So what I'm going to do is take not capital, but donations. Not the top talent. I don't come to Seoul University and say, listen, let me tell you what I'm doing. And people go, oh, I love what you're doing. If I can't get a job at Apple or Google, I'd love to come work with you. What the hell? Why would I want you? They don't want you because you're not good enough that I want you. Of course, I'm just an NGO only solving human trafficking. I'll take anyone with a pulse. That's the mentality. And I don't get technology, I get secondhand computers. Why? Why is it that the institutions to challenge the most pressing and important issues of our time, we turn to business models that don't work? So, how do you reinvent the business model of social change? That was my goal. So I decided to bring together the 50 most talented people that I knew. The founder of Twitter, the owner of the largest bank in the Southern Hemisphere, the founder of the largest healthcare company online. I didn't know you. I'm sure I would have invited each of you, but I knew the 50 people that I did know. And again, top talent. And I brought them together and I showed them a film like this about the Amazon crew. And I said, help me figure out a solution for one area of the world. The Amazon people, the indigenous people crew, let's find a solution there, and then we'll take that solution to other places. This is an example of what they saw.
The Peruvian Amazon is one of the most ecologically wealthy places on the entire planet, and yet the people are some of the poorest in the world. There's something wrong with that picture.
The communities in the Peruvian Amazon are 7 hours from the nearest city upriver. The only way to get there is by boat, and the community members can't even afford to own a boat.
They don't have access to marketplace. They don't have healthy jobs in their own community. So traffickers come in.
He sido explotado. He trabajado día y noche, las 24 horas.
It's happening, and primarily because there's a lack of economic opportunities for work.
When we looked at the Amazon region, we saw rich resources. We saw people who desperately wanted to work and build a new future.
We knew there had to be a solution to the problem. The only question is, what would that solution be?
Part of the solution we came up with was relatively simple. It was to provide villagers a boat. But what happens when the boat wears out? How do we create not a charity-based model, but a sustainable model?
It's creating jobs. Unfortunately, to create jobs is a pretty complex process. You need to engage the communities themselves. You need to engage local businesses that are creating products. You need to engage international retailers like supermarkets. And you also need to engage consumers to understand why it's important and why they should be buying these types of products. What we came up with was an incredible idea that would link all of those actors together. And what we came up with was Rebel.
Okay, so imagine you have 50 talented, bright people. You say, help me come up with a business, not a charity, but a business that will address the social economic challenges of these communities. And then, out of a fit of irrational excitement, I said, whatever idea you come up with, on Monday morning, my team and I will do it. The stupidest promise I ever made in my life. Because they came up with an idea I knew nothing about. Imagine today, this is Friday, and I say, okay, Monday morning, you're going to start a beverage company. You know as much about beverage companies as I do. The idea that came out of this process was the employing and engaging indigenous native tribes in gathering together herbs like maca root, matcha, mate, guaisanali, these beautiful medicinal healthy herbs. Employ people in a sustainable, viable way that they begin to have their own economic platform. You send them to California, you make a beverage, you take it to grocery stores, people buy it, and then you bring money back into the communities and invest it back into the infrastructure for education, technology. It sounds beautiful unless you're the person doing it on Monday morning. Right? Okay, so I'm over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, thinking, now, how am I going to do this? Now, if I'm thinking like a charity person with the brain off and the heart open, I go, oh, I know that social worker that has a lemonade recipe. I'm going to go talk to her about commercializing her lemonade. And we'll sell it at churches and on corners at farmer markets. That's a charity move. Oh, wait a second. Open my brain. I'm in Silicon Valley. What would I do? I would go and find the most talented beverage maker I know in the world. Right? Who has won all the awards? He's recognized as the guru of beverage. Coca-Cola wants him. Pepsi wants him. Unilever wants him. Well, I'm going to go get that person. Right? So I found the person. I went up to him, told him about my project. And I said, but I can't pay you like Pepsi or Unilever because I'm a charity that's doing good in the world. No! You don't do that! You say, what's Pepsi paying you? I'm going to pay you the same. And I'm going to give you 10% equity in the company. And I'm going to give you free reign to create whatever beverage so you can be known as the incredible beverage maker. He goes, wow, that's amazing. I'm in. I'll do it. Tuesday morning. How am I going to pay that guy? Right? But this is entrepreneurialism, you know? This is what you do. You think people, I was a journalist at the time that eBay, Amazon, I would interview these guys. They're just making this shit up. They really are. They're making it up. It's standing outside where you think they know everything. They don't know. Every day is a new adventure standing on the edge of a cliff. I would interview the guys from eBay. And I'd say, okay, what do you have? What's an auction software? You have a buyer and a, oh, okay. I go, well, how are you going to make money? And they go, well, we're going to charge the buyer. And then they'd stop. And they go, what do you think of that? I said, I don't know. I'd be worried that the seller would, one guy who's a founder turns to the other guy and says, see, I told you that wouldn't work. And they start arguing. They go, you guys are making this shit up. And you're going to make a lot of money making this shit up. I'm going to make nothing by writing about you making it up. I'm going to get out of this chair and walk to your side of the table. I'd rather make it up. Right? You need to make that leap from being an observer to an actor. You with me? You are in this conference because I think you're actors. Just to observe means that you are only a consumer of other people's ideas. I would love for you to be a driver of your own ideas. I'm convinced you will be the best boss you will ever have. You're not making enough money, Dave. You're absolutely right, I'm not. You need more holiday. I really do. That's a really interesting idea. You should pursue it. Yes, you should. Right? I'm the best boss I ever had. So I want you to be the best boss you ever had. Okay, so what I do is I go to an investor. I say, you know, I have the best beverage maker in the world. Would you give me money? You have him? Of course I'll give you an investment. But this is how you build a company, which is very different than me coming to Eddie Hong. I'm helping the kids in the Amazon. Would you give me $500? He goes, okay, I love it. He gives me a check for $500. I go away. 1 year later, I come back to Eddie Hong. Would you give me $500? I gave you $500 last year. I know, I'm a charity. That's what I do. I spend it. Right? There's no recurring revenue. There's no sustainability. But why is it that we use that model to try and change the world? We know it will not work. I will tell you, it will not work. It's not scalable. It's not viable. Okay, I will cut a long story short. We created a beverage called Rebel. Roots, extract, bark, berry, leaves. Be a rebel. Don't drink the same old crap everybody else drinks. Be a rebel. Coke, Pepsi, it corrodes your insides. Rebel gives you health, wellness, and it also has impact on the environment and people of the Amazon. So, today, 5 years later, we're the #1 organic health beverage in America. Just to look at our trajectory from 2012 on a financial level. We started with $225,000, not very much money. We began to, within 18 months, get a product to the market. 3 months ago, we raised a new round of capital called Series E for $20 million, and the valuation of our company is now $90 million. The revenue is growing by 15% every month. Every month it's growing like crazy. We're now at 30 million. And we are bringing money back to Not For Sale to invest in the communities. This year, $700,000. You know how many Eddie Hongs I have to visit to get $700,000? One. By the way, Eddie. Okay. Social impact. We were helping 80 children a year in a shelter in Lima. We are helping 25,000 people through Rebel today in the way that we're sourcing our ingredients. We started by sourcing in the Amazon. Now we source in 30 countries around the world. And we don't take the cheapest herb that we can find. We call it impact sourcing. The way that you source, you have impact on the community. So we choose an ingredient and the supplier and the producer based on how much impact we can have in that community. Vanilla, chocolate. Okay, if we source there, how many kids will go to school? Imagine if that was your objective rather than how can I get a cheap chocolate. Right? So, that was inspiring for Relish. I said, okay, you can be lucky once. You only be smart when you can do it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can you do this over and over again? Does the model really work? So, okay, let's go to another part of the world. Let's go to Amsterdam, Holland. And if you've ever been to Holland or Amsterdam, you are probably aware that it is known as the sex capital of Europe. There's a red light district, and tourists come from all over the world to have a sex holiday because it's legal, it's very available, very public. This woman I met, she's Dutch. Her name is Toos Heemskerk. For 30 years, she has been working with women in the red light district. She knows all about their histories, and she knows all about their individual lack of freedom. She was helping them with their health and their legal problems. I met her, I was very excited because she's a legend. And then she told me over lunch that she was going to leave her job. She was going to quit. I say, why? Because I'm so tired of promising these young girls that they will have a better life if they leave the windows in the red light district, if they leave the brothels, and I'm lying to them. There is no better life for them. There's nothing for them. So I said to Toast, okay, let's try an experiment. I told her about Rebel. Let's try an experiment different here. Let's create a company, and the goal and objective is to give a future to these young women. So we decided to create a high-end, a high-quality soup restaurant. And we would cook the vegetables in the red light district, and we would make our first customers the women behind the windows themselves. So we would go to the window and say, okay, today's soup is carrot soup. It's beautiful. Would you like it for €2.50? If you want salad, it's €4. Okay, this is a bit counterintuitive. These poor women are from Romania, they're from Hungary, they're from Bulgaria, and now I'm charging you to eat my soup. Yes, because I want them to be my customers. I want them to understand that this is a business. So the women start ordering. They love it. Yeah? We get 100 women, 300 women, 400 women who are getting our soup every day. We have a texting service. What's the soup today? It's ginger. Could you bring it between 3 and 3:30 when I'm not seeing John's clients? Then I get a call from the chief of police. He says, you need to come in and see him. Oh, I'm a business professor and we forgot to get a license to do this. We just started a kitchen and we started selling soup. So my team walks in. He says, we hear you're selling soup in the red light district. Yes, we are. We hear it's really good soup. He says, the best in all Holland. We have the top chef, right? He goes, would you start catering to all the police precincts? Because we want to also buy your soup and support your program. So if you're starting a company and you can get sex workers and cops to be your customers, you're doing something right. That's what I tell you right now. A great early demographic. Okay, so we then have the largest grocery store chain said, we want to commercialize your soup and sell it. Now I have a challenge. I have so much demand, I now have a supply problem. So we start a culinary school with Jamie Oliver, who is a very famous chef. He works with us on opening a culinary school, and we start getting women from the windows being our first chefs. Now here's the beautiful thing. This is why you take one step and another step comes and another step. People told me when we went to Amsterdam, don't try and change it. It's been thousands of years, the commercial sex industry. People accept it. It's never going to change. The mayor of Amsterdam came to me and said, I don't know why we're the brothel of Europe. Why do men come here from all over the world? We have Van Gogh. We have Anne Frank. Why are we a sex destination? I'm going to close down half the red light district. And I want to give you, not for sale, a brothel to open a restaurant. And that's what we did. So 2 years ago, we opened our first restaurant called Dignity. And it was so successful that we opened our second restaurant, much larger, much bigger. And in 1 month, I'll go to Holland to open the third restaurant. What's wonderful about this is we have 40 women every month joining our culinary school. We also have created a financial model where I do not come to Eddie Hong, not only for a village in Thailand, I don't come to him for a culinary school. I got you on the hook here. The first year, the first restaurant creates 1.25 million US dollars a year. The second one, 2.25 million. It's larger, it's more efficient. Our net profit from those two restaurants, $675,000, which we are reinvesting in opening a third and fourth restaurant in Amsterdam, and a fifth restaurant in Africa, in Kampala, Uganda. Right? 100% ownership of not for sale. We did not get any investors outside. So it's a different investment model. But again, experimenting with the investment model. Rebel was venture capital. Dignita is our own non-NGO money, no? Our own institutional money. So, very quickly, I want to run through this model. Intervention is what we did the first 5 years. We intervened to get people out of slavery. We still do that today. We still operate all over the world doing that. But while we're doing that, we create research and development. What are the best resources in that community? What would enable these people to actually have an economic and social platform of empowerment? Then what would the enterprise be we would build on top of that, right? And what happens is you see the scaling of change that happens. That Rebel goes from only having one community to helping 25,000 people. Right? Imagine the scale of every new company that you create. I'm going to have one last, we do have a shoe company as well called Z Shoes. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but you can look it up. If you learned your English from the British and you have a very posh accent, Z Shoes. Otherwise, Z Shoes. You can look that up. But it is the same model where we empower people by creating high-quality products that people want to buy, and then in the supply chain, we create our impact. So, because I do want to say that once you inspire people, there's Z Shoes. Ah, come on, who doesn't want a pair of those? Okay. Once you inspire this idea, then people start thinking differently about business and social change. I hope you leave here today, not just because of my conversation, but hearing Mr. Hong and Mr. Lee, and you're going to hear a lot of people talking about a new model, a new way of thinking. I think it's the most exciting place to be today, your age at this opportunity. On the other hand, you could choose a very boring life, to work like everybody else does, go to the same kind of job, make the same kind of money. Oh, so interesting. You have an opportunity to recreate the world. I wish I was your age and had your opportunity, but don't blow it. I want to give you an example of what people start doing once that gets unleashed. Many of you have seen the movie Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio. So Blood Diamond tells a story of how young Africans are forced to work in mines to bring out not only diamonds, but also metals that go into our cell phones, coltan and other precious minerals. So a diamond company called Spence came to Not For Sale, and they say, wow, we watch what you're doing with Rebel, we watch what you're doing with Dignita, and Z Shoes and your other companies, we want to do the same. Now, this is a mainstream, financially successful diamond company. They say, we want to change the way that we think about business. This is when you know you start winning. When other people are coming up with their own ideas. Don't try to be a messiah, to be the one who controls. You want other people to take this and run with it. Huh? So they said, we want to change the way by using best technology of how we present diamonds to the marketplace. So we're going to use biomimicry to replicate what happens when you mine a diamond underneath the earth. We want to take hot plasma and burn little chips of stone and rock and create diamonds in a laboratory setting. Right? But no one wants to buy a laboratory diamond. You say, oh my God, I love you. I'm going to buy you a ring. I'll buy you a lab diamond. What? If you really love me, you buy me a real diamond. All right? Marketing problem. Even though a diamond expert cannot tell the difference of a mine diamond and a laboratory diamond, your girlfriend can. Right? So it's a marketing problem. So they came to us and said, we have the solution for creating a new alternative supply chain, but we don't know how to sell it. What we'd like to do, first we're going to call it an artisan diamond, not a laboratory diamond. Second, we're going to tell young people, millennials of your age, most of you, when they buy an artisan diamond, we'll give 1% of that money back to the communities to create different futures for people who are being exploited to do diamonds. They now have a different kind of future opportunity. We want to work with not for sale. So you walk into a Spence diamond store, you'll see all these diamonds, but you also see signs called not for sale all over the store. And you know that you're diamond purchase. But what they do is they offer both. They go, here's a mine diamond, and this is what it costs. They don't call it a blood diamond, they call it a mine diamond. And here's an artisan diamond. They don't call it a laboratory diamond. So it's all marketing. 90% of their consumers are now buying artisan diamonds. So I was just in Uganda this last week with the CEO of Spence Diamonds. We took this pile of money that came from selling artisan diamonds, and we opened a competition all over Uganda, open to any refugee who comes from Congo because of the conflicts there, comes from Southern Sudan, comes from Rwanda. And we opened it up and said, we will take proposals for your ideas and we'll invest in your ideas for new startups. We had 130 proposals within a month. We then chose it down to 30. We had a competition in Kampala, promising investment to the top 10. But there were so many, we thought, okay, we got to give at least to 30, okay? We'll make small donations in 20, and then we'll add 3 grand prize winners. I have to tell you, I am so glad I did not talk to you 4 months ago before I went to Uganda, because I'm smarter today than I was back then. I'm ashamed to say I wasn't smart enough to figure out this is a better development model. But there have been many studies that have done that look at not-for-sale's first kind of model, where we invest locally in a center and we distribute training and services out to communities. Nothing wrong with it. Good-hearted, strong development work. That's test group A. Test group B, you don't give any training. You don't give any other kinds of services. You invest in their ideas. The results of the second study is so much higher in scale and impact than the first. So we started to shift. It blows my mind how much impact we had in 4 months in Uganda from investing in local ideas. A woman who trades in the refugee coupons she gets from the United Nations for food, she turns them in so she can buy cloth to sew dresses for her own fashion company. She lives in a frickin' refugee camp, and she has a fashion company. She now employs 7 other young girls to make dresses for her. A guy who's making sandals, he has 35 employees, and he's making sandals out of used tires. That's how you change the world. You empower people and give them the tools to build their own, because they want to be their own bosses. They're just like you and me. We want to be empowered to change our world so we can change the world. I'm not for sale. You're not for sale. Let's create a world where no one is for sale. Thank you very much. Okay, we got rid of the boring part of the day. Now we can have conversations. I'd rather hear your ideas, your questions. So anything you would like to pursue. Or if you've got a favorite song you'd like to sing, or anything. I'm open to the whole range of ideas. Yes, in the back. The brave man in the back.
Thank you for your great lecture.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have a question? Oh, you want to say more? Okay.
Well, you emphasized the importance of taking the first step. However, in order to take your first step, you need some conditions. You need money, you need the time. So how did you, get all those resources you need to actually take your first step and move on to people, tracing back, how this is going on. So how did you get the resources in the first place to actually take the first step? Because that's one of the biggest obstacles, distracting us from actually making that step. So I was just wondering how you got that.
No, it's a very important question. And when I started the shoe company, it was the little history on that is I wanted to go back to the Amazon to see the impact that we were having. Literally see it on the ground, and make sure that we weren't just blowing smoke. Yeah. And I took my son, who's how old are you? 24? He's your age. See, I read. You're 38, right? See, I read age. Okay. Yeah, see how good am I? Okay. All right. So I took my son who's 24, and because I wanted him to video it, to document it. And when we're there, my director for Peru brought out this shoe that looked like a beat-up Tom shoe. And we said, "Where's that from?" He goes, "Well, the cotton grows in trees here, not like industrial cotton. It grows in trees with different colors. And the rubber comes from this tree, like maple syrup. You just make it cut." We go, "Oh my gosh, what a great story was this." Right? Natural, organic, impacts communities. My son said, "Would you do it with me?" I said, "Okay, that'd be cool. But I'll tell you this, I'm not going to give you any money. I'm not going to give you any kind of advantage, but you've got to be the entrepreneur. I'll be the guide." Yeah? So the reason I do this is because I don't think you create successful businesses with having all that money. Because you don't learn every part of the supply chain, every part of the process. It's been 2 years now. He has not been paid a penny. He's got equity. That's why we call it sweat equity. He works weekends driving a car to at a golf course so that people can hit a ball. And I'm not being mean to my son or hard on my son. I want him to learn how to be an entrepreneur. So money is not the answer. Really what it is how do you test your idea? That's the idea. We talk about prototype. You go, but prototypes cost money. Prototypes usually lose you money. As my students know from the Global Immersion Program, more important is a pre-type, a prototype. So how do you do that? So there's a whole process of testing your idea, proving your idea, so that when you come to someone like me or Eddie, you go, "I've already proven this works, there's a demand for it, this is what it looks like. We're more likely to invest in you because you've done all that work." But you come to me and say, "Hey, Jerry and Donnie, they sat up last night late drinking beer." They don't drink beer, but when they do. Okay. And we had this great idea. You go, "Yeah, whatever." We call it dime a dozen. But if you've shown me over a year or 2 years, you've really done all the hard work of building a market with that one step. You've understood your product, you've understood your market, you've understood what works, how you would sell it. Someone like me is going to be interested in investing in you. That's your second step. So it begins with all the, unfortunately, heavy lifting. But I still do that every company. And my daughter says to me, "Why do you do this? You don't need to do." I know it, but that's how you build a company. You got to carry shoe boxes in your garage, and Don can't park his car because I got all the shoe boxes in the car. Right? So there's no shortcut to building a successful company. This takes Yeah, what's your secret? Hard work. No, the real secret. Okay, real hard work. Thank you for that question. Yeah. So when I make a business not for sale.
How long you need? What time?
Okay. Yeah. So the question is, when you're starting a new company, and I'll say this, not for sale still is the people-facing side of empowering people in Uganda and refugee camps. That's not for sale. Just Business is our investment company, which stands behind it. So I take investors into Just Business today, and then we create companies that go back to not for sale. But how long does it take to start a company? I would say it usually takes 12 months to do a good job before you actually deliver a product or service. Average. It takes 12 months. But I guess my biggest challenge for a new entrepreneur, and there's two parts of it. One is we fear failure. We don't want to look bad. And you have to get over that. And I think it's one of the challenges of entrepreneurship in Seoul or in Korea, because there's a lot of shame for failing, no? So it's like, oh, I got to tell my mom and dad I failed. My friends, I'm a failure. It's safer just to do something that I'm good at and no chance of failure. I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating, but say in Silicon Valley, if you fail, let's say, okay, I interview you for a job. I go, June, tell me about what you've done. Well, I started this company and I failed. Oh, really? What'd you learn? It's like, it's not a bad mark. It's more that you had the courage and that what did you learn? I would hire June, who's failed, well, not really, over against someone else here who has never failed. Because you're going to fail for me. I know you will. Count on it. We're all going to fail. It's like, I'm not going to learn how to walk because I might trip sometime. Whereas I learned in Ghana, we don't mind tripping because it makes us move forward more quickly. Right? So that's one thing, is that learning how to fail. And the second thing is something that the founder of LinkedIn taught me, Reid Hoffman, that if you are not embarrassed by the first release, the 1.0 release of your product, you release too late. In other words, get something out there even though it's not perfect. I am so embarrassed today by the first version of Z shoes. They're not made very well, they're kind of ugly, right, Jerry? Yeah, I'm just kind of a little bit embarrassed by them. What about the second version? A little embarrassed. Because today, oh my God, it's so great. The shoe we have today is really great. But you know what I'm going to say in 6 months? I'm so embarrassed by that product. Can't believe we made it, right? That's what an entrepreneur does. Not afraid to be a little bit awkward or embarrassed because I'm going to get better. And this is your motto. There's only two things you're going to remember today, right? One is take a step. The second thing I hope you remember is that if you're not smarter this week than you were last week, something's wrong with you. I call it aggressive humility. Have confidence in what you know today, but also be humble enough to know that next week you'll be smarter. And you'll take a chance to learn something new. We have time for one more question? Yes.
Thanks for the great, this is so inspiring. And most of the examples that you brought were very, very great, but it is a little bit unclear to me that the example in Holland, so you want to terminate the kind of sex business, and then you actually chose to start a business, Dignita, that's a restaurant, and soup business, but I just wonder how usually you came up with the idea, okay, we want to start the soup business.
Yes.
In that case. So to me, the kind of the change from from the ladies in the soup business is not very clear.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is the
Basic.
yeah. This is the very.
Basic, yeah.
This is what your Spark Notes version of really what happened. Okay, it's a very short version. In her case, what about social impact and social immersion? I do not want to underestimate what 30 years of knowing that community meant. I call it social capital. Or I only work in a community, say in Peru or in Romania, with people who have been on the ground and can provide social capital. So it's really important for social change. Because I'm not just trying to be another, beverage company or another shoe company. I really want to create deep impact. I need people on the ground who really understand. That's really critical. The second thing then is to bring together, the equivalent of the 50 people to say, what do you know? Who do you know? Do a lot of testing of ideas around them. At the end of the day, though, it's still the entrepreneur that's going to come up, what's the idea that's going to work here? The first 8 companies, we came up with those ideas. Our team is just really, very creative. They're very innovative. But you can't scale that. So what we start doing now we're looking for people like you who come to us with an incredibly innovative idea, and we invest in you. So today we're looking for entrepreneurs that we invest in, and then we can help coach them, we can help be on the board of directors. And so those ideas are not our own. In fact, I'd say the best investment I think I've made in the last 10 years is last month. Someone came to me with this great technology idea, and I can share with you later what that is. But to me, it was like, okay, it wasn't our idea. It's the smartest. I think it will create the most financial and social impact of anything we've done, more than revenue. So that's exciting. And I love that, right? Someone else is smarter than me, thank God. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful opportunity. I'll be here both days. I'm not very sociable. I won't talk to you, but it's good to see you over the next 2 days. Talk to my brother. He's friendlier. Not better looking, but he is a good guy. Okay. Thank you very much.